I want us to grow as a team, as a practice. I want to say I can easily afford to send us all on a CE, or I want to be able to invest in that new technology or whatever it is for the company. And I don't want to have to kind of worry at night, geez, like maybe I shouldn't have done that, or can I really afford that? Like that's bad energy. We don't want that kind of coming into the thought process, because that is going to impact how you talk to your patients. It's going to be gnawing at the back of your head, and you're not going to be fully present because you're always worried about the numbers. So just face them head on, get some help, get someone to analyze it, make sure it's being done correctly, and then you can just relax and do dentistry, which is what we went to dental school for. Welcome to the Truth About Dentistry podcast. I am Dr. Peggy Bound, a successful solo dental practice owner in St. John, New Brunswick. After years of figuring out how I wanted to practice, I now run a fully digital clinic providing my own brand of dentistry on my own terms. It wasn't easy, and I'm still learning, but I know I have so much knowledge to share. This podcast is created to help inspire young dentists or anyone looking to transition to a more digital practice. I aim to give you actionable step-by-step strategies to help you navigate the modern dentistry landscape. If you're looking to become more digital, improve your skills, or even have a more profitable practice, then this podcast is for you. Now let's get started. Welcome back. It's so great to be here. Today, I have been thinking, we're headed into probably a pretty bleak time in dentistry. 2023 has some, along with it being a winter in this part of the world, there's a lot of doom and gloom, especially through the news because of, again, COVID's still around, and then we have this recession, kind of impending recession. So many of us who are thinking, are people really going to want to pay for, cosmetic dentistry? Are they going to want to spend money on things that maybe they can wait? Where is this all headed? In addition to the fact that our team, really there's a shortage, and I believe this is happening pretty much everywhere. There's a lot of turnover, and there's some people who are losing team members, and it's really challenging right now to keep morale high and to keep us all kind of not just surviving, but especially thriving. And so I kind of wanted to go over some of the things that I think would really make a big difference in not only help you, survive 2023, but really thrive in it and enjoy it as much as it can be enjoyed. I mean, when we signed up as a dentist, we kind of knew that things might be sometimes tough, but if the world's painting this bleak picture, sometimes we start to believe those things, and it really isn't always the way it has to be. There are things that I think that, I can really decide to do a little bit differently in my practice that will help me and hopefully help you, get through it, but just enjoy every day to the fullest. And so that's what I want to talk about today. So let's get started. So the first one is to take care of yourself first. I, as you know, or many of you know maybe, that I do mentor other dentists. I have a lot of great people around me, and anybody who knows me knows how much I believe it's important to take care of yourself. And for me personally, as again, someone who's close to 50, let's just say that. I'm not in my 20s. I have 2 teenage kids that I have to keep up with. I run a very busy practice of 10 people, and I have this sort of side business with mentorship and courses and things that I offer and lectures, and just a little tiny side effort towards becoming a black belt someday. I have to somehow juggle all those balls, and yeah, it's hard some days, but I am very deliberate about how I plan my life. And it starts with thinking deliberately, being intentional about my, sleep, which is probably my biggest struggle because I don't know when to shut it off. But other than that, I'm quite good at choosing to exercise every day. Finding just, even if it's just walk my dog, that gets done. That's a guarantee. It's a promise I made to my dog, and trust me, he will not let me down. A way you can add to that, by the way, is to add weights to your arms and your ankles. So if I do not gonna get a workout, My dog is like, Mom, what are you doing? I have ankle weights and I have arm weights and I'm just like trucking. So I am getting exercise even more than just walking the dog. I am exercising. So exercise, eating well. I mean, my whole family knows that there's only so much we allow for junk. And if I see like my kids eating like that, or if I see my like catch myself, I'm like, okay, like it's cut off. Yes, of course, we're all exposed to it. We're all tempted by it, but really trying to make good choices, like buying nutritious foods and making it helpful to us when like we get in the door. We're like, okay, so are the vegetables, are the fruits, is everything like out and available? So one thing I did this year is I have this team challenge for the team. I want everybody to be eating healthy at work as well. And so I'm actually supplying the snacks. We're having like a healthy snacks challenge here at work. But again, if I believe it, then I should be also being the person who exemplifies it. And then of course helps other people achieve that goal too. So that is very important, and that's just part of, I guess, being healthy and taking care of yourself. I also take care of myself in a sense that I am really trying to, find time to not work so much. And when I do work less, I'm actually more effective and efficient. So whatever that's all about, it took me years to figure that out. But anyway, it's finally here. Number 2 would be to work on the emotional game of dentistry. And what do I mean by that? Well, I find, and I don't know if it's because I'm a woman, sometimes women can be a little more emotional, can overthink, right? We tend to really like worry about what other people think, and also get real kind of bogged down about whether someone else is happy and whether or not they may have been offended by what we said, or that. And Quincy will tell you, because sometimes I'll say to her, I'm like, do you think I said the right thing there? Do you think I should have done that? I really, and it's good because it's nice to have someone, who can like say, no, like you're fine. But if you're thinking that way, like don't let yourself think that way too long, because it's like, it's easy to overthink. And often we don't realize, but most people don't think about you after you leave the room like you think they do. It's really hard to permanently offend someone or create some sort of, problem that can't be, feel better after a little bit of time. So don't let yourself get sort of sucked into that, because a lot of times we have to manage, we have to try to preserve ourselves, and we have to lead. We have to be there for our team and be positive. And then we also have to be that way for our patients. We had a really challenging patient right before Christmas, and I was told that somehow, they're like, Peggy, I don't know how you did that, how you held it together. And I just kept seeing the positive. I kept trying to be like, not let it get to me, and understand that was that person's emotional problem and not mine. Even though I was empathetic and I was, trying to be there for her, I was not going to get drawn into it. So being able to kind of keep yourself separated and also preserve your own sanity by not getting dragged into the emotional aspect of dentistry is huge. Highly recommend. So you have to lead the team, right? Generally, most of us, if you're in the clinic, you have to lead the team. A lot of times anyone, it's just human nature. Everybody wants someone to solve their problems for them. What I was finding is I was getting a lot of people come to me for every single thing. Now, it was either because I sent out the wrong message that I don't trust you to make a decision on your own, so you better ask me before you make any decision. It's very possible. Or I wasn't giving them the tools to figure out how to make the decision on their own. And so either way, it was burning me out. And one of the things that I think that really is important is to find ways that you can communicate to your team that it's okay to make these types of decisions, or it's okay to, try to think of solutions on your own before you come to me. And if you can, again, work it out amongst yourselves, or when you've really kind of boiled it down, then you come to me, or then we, kind of decide what we're going to do. But it's really helpful when you tell your team it's okay to make some decisions on your own. And it's also what I would prefer in fact, because, I'm only one person. I have to also deal with a lot of other things. And so one way to really, kind of do well, I think, is to have team members that are empowered, have team members that really feel comfortable and confident in making decisions. And two things I guess I want to say about that. One is that when you have clinic values, so if you think about your own values, if your value, like my values, for example, are like kindness, health, and self-development, let's say. But what are the values of the clinic? Like, what are the values? And if kindness, I'm going to use kindness as a repeat example here. If kindness is one of the values of the clinic and they know that about you and they know, then, when we're making a decision about whether to give a patient, let's say, a refund, or let's say it's a decision to, choose to send something out or be somehow interactive with people and businesses and patients, then if we use kind of kindness as one of our true north values, then we're going to be able to make that decision. Yes, it's a small amount of money, it's a small investment, but it's part of who we are. We are kind. We want to do the right thing. We want to go above and beyond for our patients. So let's give that free, electric toothbrush, or let's give the donation to the patient is asking for it for the sports team. Whatever it is, like you just kind of got to use that. So working together and figuring out what the true north values are of the clinic can really help make you, decide as well. And that way the team members can maybe help make those decisions if they don't quite know you. Especially if someone's known you for years, it's a bit different, but it certainly helps to do that. And one thing that we learned from one of our coaches was to do the 3-2-1 rule. And what it is you tell your team, listen, when you have a problem, you come up with 3 solutions to the problem. So come up with 3 solutions, boil it down to what you think is the best solution. And then if you think that you can go with that, then do it. But if you really still can't, decide, at least your team has tried to solve it on their own first, instead of coming to you and everybody sitting around and not sure what to do. It just wastes time. So from an efficiency standpoint, which is another thing, part of surviving and thriving, is to be efficient, is to help those team members really decide, on their own what they're going to do and what they're going to, use this type of rule, this type of system to figure out what's best in that case.
Do you want to become the modern dentist in your area? Our on-demand and live mentorship will help you stand out, attract your ideal patients, and build a niche-based practice. This A to Z training is for dentists and team who desire the digital workflows and skills to operate a thriving digital practice, helping you stand out in a crowded market. This course is the culmination of Dr. Bound's 20-plus years of experience in building a patient experience that patients will pay more for. Learn from our on-demand courses or receive a more customized experience with our mentorship program as we guide you through the curriculum. You can find out more from the link in the show notes. Or, if you aren't quite ready to take the plunge, you can also find the link to our freebie consult photography guide, which will help you get the right shot on the first attempt. Now back to the episode.
Number 4 is to make an intentional effort to start on time, get out on time, and have a lunch. My team knows that I believe this is important. And if somebody is running behind, it is important that the other team members don't just kind of leave that person. They make sure that they can help them finish up the room, get things going so that we all have a good life. One of the things that from a patient perspective that I read somewhere, I can't remember where this was, but it was that patients will rate whether or not you're a good dentist or not on whether or not you were on time. Now, for some reason, medical doctors in this country can get away with running behind quite a bit without penalty, it seems. But when you're a dentist, you're really expected to be on time. And you can think of all the crazy things that can go wrong and run us behind. So it is very challenging. It's not easy. But when we make that an intention and we set it for the day and we talk about it in the team meetings and we know that's important, we're going to have a better life. Our patients are going to perceive us as being on the ball better. And we're also going to prevent a lot of overtime and over worn out team members. Again, this is another part of efficiency. are we not running on time because we're not doing things in an efficient way? Or is it just because we're not really paying attention and we think it's okay to be running late? So that is something that I think is really important and should be part of your team meetings when you get together for that. So number 5 would be to really know your numbers. Sometimes it can be just one of those things that just sort of gnaws at you because you're like, oh, I hope I made money today. And you leave and you're a bit tired or whatever, but you have no idea. Like, you don't know whether you were profitable that day. You feel a little worn out. But if you do that multiple days and you're never really getting to know, what is really happening here. You are running a business. You're on the hook for all the money. You have to pay everybody. You have to produce. And yes, you can take home an income, but is your practice really growing? And I mean, if it's just sort of staying flat and it's the same every year, it's really not growing. It's probably shrinking because along with the insane inflation headed our way, we really have to do much better this year. It's really going to be a hard one. So I think that we have to find ways to, if we are looking at numbers, then, what are we learning from the numbers? Can we read into it? Is there something we can do better month after month? For me, I've hired a coach to specifically help me with the numbers. I am not good with it. It's just not my thing, but I like to hear and I like to get positive reinforcement, and I like to hear the bad too. And I want to know because I want us to grow as a team, as a practice. I want to say I can easily afford to send us all on a CE, or I want to be able to invest in that new technology or whatever it is for the company. And I don't want to have to kind of worry at night, geez, like maybe I shouldn't have done that, or can I really afford that? Like, that's bad energy. We don't want that kind of coming into the thought process, because that is going to impact how you talk to your patients. It's going to be gnawing at the back of your head, and you're not going to be fully present because you're always worried about the numbers. So just face them head on, get some help, get someone to analyze it, make sure it's being done correctly, and then you can just relax and do dentistry, which is what we went to dental school for. Number 6 is strategizing and analyzing how you're doing from an efficiency standpoint. Now, I did touch on the efficiency a couple times before, and efficiency, we don't realize it, but we're always leaking efficiency to some point. There's always some lost time in the day. You can't be perfect. But what is it? And think about this, and maybe you can have a meeting specifically about this, like looking at your systems. Okay. So for us, I'm going to kind of touch on a system that I had since I opened in 2015, this new practice in 2015, which is called Dentistry. It's a dental software. And then I'm going to also mention the type of software that we implemented called Weave, which is sort of more of a auto confirmation and two-way texting, along with, of course, other things too. But I just want to kind of touch on those two. So one is Dentrix. Now, Dentrix, when I first opened, I was like in a hurry. I didn't have my team do the training. We were not using the existing software to its full potential. Now, when we did hire a Dentrix professional, somebody who's like really, really good in Dentrix, one-on-one with my team, she built us up, and also my team has done some specific training in this software. That has made a huge difference in being able to, like I say, not just communicate and safely document and take care of our patients in a very effective, efficient way, but also it's allowed us to create reports and things like that we can then analyze to decide our next move. Again, you don't just, if you're playing a game of checkers or chess, you don't just sort of move the parts around. You look at the whole picture, you analyze the situation, and then you move. So that is what these reports can do, and it can really be helpful to have some extra training in the software you have. So if you have EagleSoft or whatever, there's a lot of different ones out there, but there's a lot of training that can be done just on the existing software that you have. The other system that we did implement since 2020, since the pandemic, was Weave. And like I said, it's sort of like allows us to, it basically took over our phones. So it's our phones now, and it's auto confirmation, but in a really personalized way. So I did do, or may have done, if I haven't, I'll dive into that in another episode about weave, because weave has been a real game changer in our practice. But it's really great to have something that can make your team's experience faster, and your patients too will not get missed. So if you're having, like being able to communicate with patients without having to get on the phone, or using the technology in a way that allows a little bit of a quicker response time, then I highly suggest that you invest in that. And it doesn't take much as far as a cost perspective when you think about the hours lost when your team is not being efficient. I think the reason why I thought I had talked about weave is because we have actually documented how we use weave in our digital course, The Modern Dentist. So that is, just giving myself a plug here, that is a course that we designed for doctors who do want to adopt more modern technology and improve their workflows. So that is available in the course, and we really dive into how we use weave, because there's so many different ways that we use weave. I really didn't go into it in this episode. Number 7 is a really exciting one. It really continues on in our discussion about efficiency. And that is for my treatment coordinator, Quincy. So Quincy was having trouble. And again, this is so important. So the point here is to make sure you're following up with your patients after they've had this very meaningful, exciting consult. Sometimes there's things that the patient wants to go think about, or let's say maybe they have to go check on, or they have to talk to someone, or you have to get back to them. Make sure you're doing the follow-ups. So again, my treatment coordinator, Quincy, she was having a little bit of trouble always making sure she followed up. And that really became something that, okay, what can we do here? So she tried different ways. One was, I think, through HubSpot. Another was Trello. You may have heard of that. Again, nothing wrong with these systems, but it became one more place she had to look. So what she ended up doing, and this is like a really good gem for your treatment coordinator, so make sure you remember this one, is to, in the daily schedule where she's going to be looking all the time anyway, it's not an extra place to look, she created a little block out at the end of the day, and it had the patient's names. So if she told a patient she was going to follow up in 2 days, so she would put the patient's name in that block 2 days, in 2 days time. When that comes up, of course, and every day she checks that, and she goes through those names and makes sure she does follow up with those patients, and then grays out that blocks to show that she actually completed it for that day. So she can't gray it out until she's all checked it. And it's just one of the ways that, again, we're making sure we're following up with our patients. We're tying up loose ends. You go through all this trouble to do a consult, and you got them through social media, you get them in the door, you wow them, and then they have to go home, or they have to check with their insurance, or you have to check on something, and everybody kind of forgets. And it's such a waste. It's such a lost production. It's a loss of time, and it really starts to add up. So if that can be helpful to you, try that. Let me know how you make out. If you like this, just send me a little DM on Instagram, and I would love to hear about that. Okay, the last one is really organizing your day, thinking about the things you want to do. You only have so many hours in the day, and your energy is high at some parts of the day, maybe not so high in others. Never schedule me for aesthetic bonding or anything after 3 o'clock. I mean, I'm going to be useless. I just don't have the energy. I don't have the creativity. My spark is not as much at that point in the day. So I'm going to book things that are more automatic for me at that point in the day. What I'm getting at here is to think about, if you are not already doing this, don't let your schedule just kind of control you. Like, make sure you're being deliberate, intentional about where you're putting procedures, and whether or not the procedure itself is in a good place where it's going to suit your team, you and your team's sort of best time of day to be doing that. The other thing is to think about what you're doing in the other chairs, and then having some sort of system. So for me, 2 days a week, I have very long procedures where I'm doing like a lot of, veneers or things like that. And I don't have as much heavy would be booked in the next chair. 1 day a week I do. I'm only working 3 days a week right now. And I'm able to really create, this sort of system where we know, okay, those are the mornings that Peggy is like she's high energy, but she's not really available to do a lot of things, and running around the way I would, let's say, in the afternoon. So I hope this helps. It's just some of the things that I know that if you make these little changes, you're going to have a better year. And I believe myself, I just keep focusing on these things, and it can only get better. And no matter where you are in this journey, you can always be intentional and try to, kind of start your day with the best attitude that you can and let the rest happen. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this podcast. And again, hopefully I inspired you in some way. If you feel that this was helpful, or you have any colleagues that you think would really maybe enjoy some of the content like this, we're going to be here every week. And I would so appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel and also share this little discovery of this new podcast with your friends and colleagues. If you do want to reach me, you can certainly find me through my social media channels, Dr. Peggy Bound or Peggy Bound Dentistry, or you can reach me on my email, peggy@smilesbybound.com.